Hello and welcome to the Profitable Coach Podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Rich, head coach at Transformation Academy. From seasoned experts sharing their hard-earned wisdom to rising stars navigating their journey, every episode uncovers the stories, strategies, and lessons behind what it takes to create massive impact and income as a coach. This show is brought to you by Transformation Academy and the Impact Coaching Collective. If you're ready to be inspired, take action, and build the coaching business of your dreams, well, then you are in the right place. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Profitable Coach Podcast. Today is episode number 72 with relationship expert Diana Eskander. And personally, I'm a little biased. I love this conversation so much because Diana is one of those people that when you get in her presence, you immediately feel the impact of all the work that she's done, both on herself and with her clients. She really represents what it means to be embodied in the work that she teaches. And this really serves people everywhere from calling in the love that they desire, improving their existing relationships, to being able to hold a certain level of financial wealth. So I'm not going to give away too many details about this conversation, but let me just tell you, it runs the full spectrum. And if there's any part of you that has not yet called in what you desire in your coaching business, then I encourage you to listen to this conversation, to go follow Diana, to see what I mean for yourself. So with that, I won't hesitate anymore. Please welcome to the show, the one and only Diana Escander. Welcome back to the Profitable Coach Podcast. I am so delighted and excited to have my friend Diana Escander with me today. Diana, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
So Diana is someone that I have gotten to connect with a couple times, but more recently is when we really got to drop in. We were both attending a retreat in Mexico. Well, Diana was actually speaking at it, and I happened to get the flu the first day that I was there. And I was certain that the only reason I went to that retreat was to see Diana speak. So when she said yes to coming on the show, I was so thrilled because I just feel like the way that you lean into your purpose is what I hope and wish for everyone who feels a calling to serve. So I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here and dive into all the amazing things.
So for people who are not yet familiar with your work, how is it that you describe the way that you work with women and the beautiful transformation that you help them to embody?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I would describe it as really leading a movement, like a global movement at this point, of women who are in their hearts versus their heads. And like really, actually, I think we don't fully know what that means. We've kind of confused it, in the past, and really supporting women to be relaxed receivers, self-centered women, like really based within their overflow is the overflow that they give to others. Right. And so I love to work in this context within relationship and love and dating and feminine, masculine, energetics and the dance between the poles and like actually feeling really good and embodied and relaxed in your relationships and in your life. Right. And especially in this piece of like romantic relationship and how we can get caught up in the doing. And so much of what I've seen for women is this idea that we like our value is in what we do and what we give and what we provide. And that is literally the bottleneck of what is in the way of a woman actually fully being seen and appreciated and cherished and adored, and to feel like there isn't this pile of resentments building up in her heart and her relationships. And so I really would just here to dismantle all of that and say, you get to do so much less. And then actually, the irony of that is when you are doing so much less of what you think you have to do, you're going to do so much more of what you want to do. And then what actually just continues to energize you. And it's like being the energetic quality of a relationship as the feminine pole. So quite the description. Yeah.
Casual elevator pitch.
Oh,
No, I mean, one of the things that I'm just going to call out right from the beginning is whenever I hear you speak about what it is that you do, there's such a clear embodiment of the work. And for me, as a recipient, as a listener, there's like a full nervous system reset that I get to have being in the presence of someone who is embodied. And especially in an area that feels really important for me at this stage of my life. And I told you right after your talk, I was like, this is why I came. Whatever you're doing, I want in. And I've told everyone about the kind of work that you do since I've got home, since I came back home. And so I'm curious, what are some ways that your life started to shift when you began to embody the things that you now teach and really just own as who you are?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Where to start?
So, so much, but okay, I'll start with my love life and just where it was and where it is now. And so where it was like, you know, pre-marriage with in past partnerships, and then even things that have shifted since being with Jack, my life partner. So when I think back to how things were for me in the past, it was very much I was in my anxious tendencies, I was in my anxious attachment, a lot of chasing, seeking validation. Like, have you ever been in a relationship and you feel like you're so alone and you're like, how am I alone in a relationship? This feels like the most confusing experience ever. And it's actually
100%.
like being in the relationship is highlighting and amplifying how alone you feel. So that was pretty much, I could say, like my relationship experiences. It's like I'm coming up against the wall. I feel like I have to contort or conform in some way and like show my worth and show my value and like really try really hard, think about where the relationship is going, what the relationship needs. And it was this like always this energy outside of me, this continuous energy outside of me. And then, after one too many experiences like that, it was like, there's no way I'm just here at the mercy of these relationships. Like there's got to be something here for me to look at. And I think that's when I really started to understand this like self-agency, personal responsibility, like sovereignty, like what's my part here? Because there's actually power in that for me. And so when I really started to ask those questions, and that is so much of what I teach, that's like one of the pillars of the self-centered woman is sovereignty. And it's like, okay, I actually have power here where I thought I was powerless, where I thought I was completely powerless. It actually is the source of my power. Like once I see that for what it is. And so then I was like, oh, let me play with this dynamic. Like clearly I haven't been being appreciated in my relationships because I'm not appreciating myself at all. I'm not seeing myself at all. And so I started to dance with the other side, and then, I kind of swung the pendulum a little too far, and I was kind of going into avoidance and experiencing men being anxious with me. And I was like, well, like this is fun too, but I also don't love it. Like, it's more fun than the other dance, but I don't love it. So I would say, it really has supported me in such massive ways of, like, oh, who am I? And like, what is my part here? And am I really seeing myself? And if I desire a relationship that feels like home and adventure and unconditional love, it's like I get to create that baseline within myself. And then like when I met Jack, who's my husband, and we have two children together, it was like this clear recognition, this almost immediate like familiarity, because it had been so embodied in me that when I saw it, it was just like, oh, I recognize this. I recognize you because this is now my inner status, you know? So, now I started to experience relationships in the other pole where I was like standing in my worth. And I remember like the first time really feeling myself, like I'm standing in front of someone who I not only really like, but who I see as like potential for a lifelong partnership. And I feel like relaxed and present and excited and open, and I'm so grateful for who this person is, but I'm also so aware that he's also so lucky to be standing in my presence and to be receiving anything from me, any part of me. And so I was, like really practicing the things that I teach, like the slow burn and feminine discernment and like allowing someone to show you who they are. And that's, my love life, and I continue to be in that process even with my relationship. Like, where am I now, like, starting to focus too much outward, or I'm like looking to Jack to like validate something in me that maybe I need to be validating for myself, and even just the other day, I was like feeling like he wasn't paying me attention. And I'm noticing, like, I'm sitting on the couch and I'm noticing this split energy where, like, part of me wants to be like, when is he going to look over and, like, talk to me? The other part of me is like, just stay here, girl. Just focus on yourself. Enjoy this moment. Pick up your book, like, just focus back on you. And it's so much of, like, the self-centered woman, and which is a whole process in of itself. And that same energy of, like, high standards, high trust, really respecting and honoring myself and seeing the value of what I bring has obviously supported me so massively in my business and in the kind of people I'm available to work with and the way I really own the magic I'm here to bring to the world. So it's been endless. And what I love is it's actually truly endless. It's truly an infinite journey.
Diana, one of the things that was coming into my mind as you were telling this story is like, when you're in those moments where you feel yourself sort of split and the old wiring really wants to kick in, what are some ways that you have been able to actually make the shift? Because, Diana 15 years ago might not have been able to be a match to someone like Jack, but she
Mm-hmm.
became a match to someone like Jack.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you
Mm-hmm.
do that on like a daily basis?
Yeah. So one of the things, and it's like the such unsexy part of the work, but I have actually been bringing so much sexiness to it recently, is like really owning like that part of me that's like, but I just wanna get it from someone else. I just want someone else to make me feel special and adored and seen, and really see that part of me and really love that part of me, and not reject her at all. Not
Mm.
reject her at all, but fully be like, you crazy, amazing aspect of me. Like, here, I see you. I love you. You're welcome here. Like, I don't reject you in any way. And so that has been more of the last few years, I would say, is like fully embracing, where I'd say the first part of my journey was like seeing that and going, okay, well, how do I consciously want to choose otherwise? But there was a subtle rejection within that, of that part of me. And the journey now has been seeing that and going, you're so crazy and amazing. I love you. And like, actually been doing a lot of existential work, existential kink work with that, of like bringing the sexy into like, there's a part of me that loves to play this game. There's a part of me that does love this dynamic, and I'm just going to fully own that in the moment where it's like, okay, I'm seeing this split energy. I literally, so much of the time, I will just actually like, I love you. You're amazing. I see you. You're good. You're safe.
Mm.
I've got you. I know, doesn't it just make you want to cry? It's like,
I like
I
this one,
freaking love
holding
you.
my own face. So good.
Or like this, just like hands up here and like
Yeah.
tapping, and exactly just like, and I feel like you want to put your energy out here, and I see that. And there's also another choice too, and it's like kindness, right? Because I think one of the hardest things we can do to ourselves is shame our shame, right? And like just create resistance around resistance. And so like,
Mm.
I see you, and there's another choice too, which is like, enjoy this moment. The kids are quiet. Like, pick up your book, like, enjoy yourself, come back to you. And I will
Mm.
literally often practice, imagining a center line within my body. And I am harnessing all the energy into that center line. And I'm coming here, I'm coming home.
I love that. And I resonate with that so much as, a single female in her
Mm-hmm.
mid to late 30s. There is
Ish,
definitely ish, like 22 at heart. No, there's definitely a narrative in my mind where I'm like, I know that I can carry my own bag. I know that I can open my own door. I've been doing it my whole life. I don't want to. And then
Mm-hmm.
like noticing any external narratives or societal narratives around like, well, you should be able to, or that's asking too much, or whatever. So I love this idea of just owning that part of you, loving that part of you. Any too muchness is like totally welcome. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to talk about that word for a second, because I have a
Mm-hmm.
story
Mm-hmm.
that you encounter a lot of women who have been told
Mm-hmm.
they're too much. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious how you support them in that.
Well, I think within that too much, first of all, whenever a woman asks me, am I asking too much? I immediately know she's accustomed to and acclimated to not actually asking for enough. and like really flipping it on its head. Now that doesn't mean she's never showed up in a relationship in a way where she's kind of like grasping or like trying to force something. But at the core of it, it's this belief that I'm not allowed. I'm not allowed to want more. And I really love to lovingly break this belief and be like, I want to invite you into this and that type of mentality and this and that type of consciousness. Because the belief of I have to have this or that and I can never have everything I want met is really this part of you that likes to stay in the suffering of like, it's never enough. I always have to choose. I'm always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like I can't ever be fully satisfied. And so again, like this kinky part of you that wants to stay in that cycle. So within the too much, it's like, have you actually owned for yourself that what you're asking is like, can you embody it? Can you set it as your standard and allow it to be so true that you dissolve the fear that you have hooked onto it? Like most women are asking too much, quote unquote, but not trusting it'll ever be met. So it's got this disempowered, wobbly energy, right? And so the way it's being asked for, the way it's being communicated is not like anchored in this, like, of course I trust you're going to meet me there. So what's usually too much is not even what I'm asking, it's how I'm doing it. You know, it's the spiral that I bring to it. It's not the actual thing that's too much.
Yeah, I love that. So this is, after all, the Profitable Coach podcast. And I'd love to hear how you have woven the principles of receptivity, feminine, just like anchoring into your desires, trusting, faith, the self method into how you've grown your business and how you coach people and consult people to do the same.
Yeah, I love this question. So part of the self method is like the metaphor is one of a tree, right? And so sovereignty is in the roots, embody is in the tree trunk. So that's the self acronym. So it's the tree trunk, it's the body, right? So even just right there, if you want to start with those two, is like if you can imagine yourself rooting into the ground and then lifting your body up into this like strong presence, right? That can really be with life instead of shrink away or lean too far in. It's just this strong, relaxed presence. And then I love to play like literally with my body of this energy of like expanding out my arms. Like these are the branches, right? So this is like the love. And then frequency is the fruits and the leaves and everything that comes from like rooting into all that's available for me, right? And all that's possible and all that gets to come. Cause up here is like, this is like coming into the body and this is more of like the ascension. And when you get to play with both, it's like, I can walk with this method every step of the way. Where is my sovereignty? Right. So when I'm facing let's say like, a challenge in my business, or let's say I am having a desire, but I'm feeling myself like pull away from the desire or make it smaller because I'm afraid of being disappointed. Like I can step into my sovereignty there and I can notice those patterns and I can love them and I can play with them. And, I have a 9-month certification on this process, so I'm condensing it down to a minute here. Right. So there's like the sovereignty and then there's, well, where am I embodying, like literally taking care of my body on the most foundational levels and feeling my feelings and like getting in tune with myself and not just rattling up here, which doesn't tend to be the frequency of solution, right? Or expansion. And then it's like, okay, well, what would love do here? What's my most expansive move? Not what would fear choose here? Right? What would love choose here? Like, if I really was in my expansion, what kind of clients do I want to work with? What is the desire and the vision I actually have? What am I really available for if fear isn't making my choices? What are my standards? Right? And like choosing, and every time, I show up and I do something I say I'm going to do, I build that self-trust muscle. And so the next time I have this like lofty idea, more of me believes that it's possible because it's seen me show up and say yes and do the damn thing and rise to the occasion, like continue to rise up to it, strongly rooted and rising up to the stretch, leading a bigger room, signing more people up to a space, having more applications come in, like we say we want those things consciously, right? But when it comes, is your body prepared? Is your body prepared to receive that much energy or that much cash in one go? It sounds like a great idea. We all love the idea of like 100 cash in a day, 100K cash in a day. But when that comes, it's a lot of energy. Are you prepared to not hold it? Because I don't believe you hold any of it, but to be with it and to let it be in your presence.
I love that.
So it's like nervous system, right? It's all of the, we're such a, it's a whole picture of being in the dance of these things. You know, I see an email come through today and a client is asking this question and I can sense in the question that there's a bit of activation and it's like, can I see that? Can I breathe? Can I find my sovereignty here? Can I come back into my body? And can I respond with love and allow this person to have whatever response and experience they have on the other side?
Mm. Yeah. So when you were building your business and now you have multiple offerings that people can plug into, what were some of those like initiation moments or evolution moments where you had to move yourself through what is now called the self method? And what did that look
Oh my
like?
goodness. This is a great question. So initiatory moments. Oh my goodness. Okay, it's like you've casted a vision for how you want a launch to go, and it's, you're in the middle of it, and there was momentum, just like when you're dating, right? You really like this person, felt like it was going somewhere, and then it kind of just falls off. And then do you spiral into a story of victimhood and then create this whole spiral of victimhood energy around it and make all your choices from that energy, like how you reach out to that person or not, or do you rise up and go, okay, I see this part of me that feels disappointed. I love this part of me that feels disappointed. I welcome home that part of me and I'm choosing the love frequency, which is expansion, which is this whole godlike point of view that isn't getting dragged down with every daily occurrence. Right. And so can I stay into the vision? Like just last week, I was running the second iteration of the self-centered woman, which is this gorgeous, like, it's like a portal we step into for 4 days. And on the last day, I'm seeing this familiar thought come up and it's not a genuine emotion. It's a thought. Very different, right? I'm seeing this familiar thought come up of like, what if no one cares? And like, what if people were like, thanks for the free class all week and like, just, don't ever talk to me again. And I'm
like, I want to hug that part of you.
I know, right? So I see it and I'm like, oh, you're just so, it's like watching one of my kids sometimes, right? Like, I love you. You're so amazing. If you can't see you right now, like I can see you. Right. And so just like loving that part of me and being like, this is not actually, none of this is at all true. Right. Can I allow myself to feel that in my body? Because it's a great thought, but if the body's not on board, nothing's going to shift. Right. And it's like, oh yeah, that's just like old stuff. I don't need to play that game at all. I get to play the game of love, which is, this has been an epic experience. Like this has been, when I say like day 3 of that class, I felt like I was channeling from a different galaxy and people were like so moved and like message after message of breakthrough and transformation. I'm like, you have no evidence of any of this being true. And you're going to remember who you are here. And it is in my body. It's like giving myself a moment to love that part. And then it's rising up to the occasion. And it's been time and time and time again, like, okay, you're calling a big shot. Time to back it up. It's time to get your energy aligned with this decision. It's time to expand into the decision.
I would love to know for people that are kind of in that crunchy space right now. A lot of our listeners are newish to their coaching businesses and like in their mind and in their most inspired self, I think they fully believe in their mission. And there's some fears that come up around putting themselves out there, not seeing people sign up as quickly as they thought. And so it's like their body hasn't yet gotten on board with the inspired idea. What advice would you give to them to help their body and their nervous system catch up?
Great question. I would spend very intentional amount of time with that part of yourself. So like you might play. So I'll give this example. I make a lot of comparisons and metaphors with raising children, because we are so much raising ourselves in some way and like reparenting ourselves in many ways. So when my son used to have this really hard time transitioning from watching TV to now TV time is done. And so we're moving on, and he'd have these big meltdowns. And so I had come up with this, like, okay, we're just going to have a transition activity. Like as soon as it's done, we're like moving to snack or coloring or painting, or I have something set up, or we're going to kick a ball, or we're going outside. And so I love to set up my clients, like when they're like, okay, I want to process some things that I'm feeling, and like set yourself up with a few songs. Give yourself the clear parameter. Like if I'm not going to guide you through this myself in this moment, and you're going to walk yourself through this moment, like give yourself a clear block of time to feel these feelings and to give space for this part of yourself that wants some attention. Because that's what it is, like, right? It wants some attention. Give yourself that intentional block of time, 2 songs, let's say 3 songs, and then like have something for yourself afterwards where it's like, I immediately go for a walk after this. Right. And so I'm not getting stuck in that space. I'm feeling it, and then I'm expanding. I'm owning it. It's a sovereignty, right? Sovereignty to embody a love frequency. I'm taking ownership of my life. I'm coming into my body. I'm feeling the things, and then I'm choosing to move into love. And it's like, what is that transition for you to, you've already decided it before you even go into the experience. So you have a plan for yourself, and you are like, I'm processing these doubts and these feelings for 6 minutes. And then I'm going to go work out, or I'm going to go have lunch, or I'm going to go take a walk, because I don't have to believe these stories. They are, at this point, in this moment, stories that haven't come true. Right? So do I choose to energize the potential of something bad, or do I choose to energize the potential of all that's possible?
Love. So good. So one of the things that I really appreciate about your energy and the way that you facilitate and, make offers is owning the value of what it is that you're providing. But I know that too was probably an evolution, and your offerings didn't start at the current price point that they are. So will you take us back to the early days of starting your coaching business and what that looked like? And then what were some stepping stones that had to happen to get to the full product suite that we now see and the pricing that we now see?
I absolutely love it. So I'll start with the pricing point. Is I could have never priced at this point at the start of my career, right? And so I think it's really important, because some people are like getting started and they're jumping into a market where there's a lot of different things happening and a lot of different price points. And so everything is available to you. But I couldn't have this, like, starting at this price point would have collapsed my nervous system, because I would have thought I had to give them my kidney, my liver, my my heart, like literally, like, what do you,
your
like,
kids?
My kids, like, oh, they weren't there yet. So, right? Like,
which is also a brilliant point. We're catching you at many years into the business. And I think it's really easy, just real quick, to highlight for any listeners that are brand new to not compare yourself, your level 2, to someone's level 200.
Exactly. So, I've been coaching for almost a decade now, and I'd say I've been in the online game, like, really officially since 2019, I would say, would be like when I would say I really went into online space more. So exactly, I've been in the game now. Everyone's timeline gets to be different, and gosh, I wish you to accelerate so much faster than me, and amazing, right? Because we're all setting the foundation for it to just feel more easeful for those who are coming up next. So that's really beautiful, and that's all possible. But if I go back to the beginning, it was like sales call after sales call after sales call. And like, me saying that I approach these sales calls like I'm curious about them, but really I'm just there to prove that I'm that they should hire me, right? Like me wanting to hold the positioning of I'm here to see if you're a fit for this, but really I was just wanting their yes. And I remember saying in a conversation with someone in terms of like dating, and I was coaching them on dating. And I was like, are you going on dates waiting for the person to say yes to you? Or are you ever saying no to people? Or are you always waiting for them to say yes? Was essentially the question. And that hit me so hard, because I realized that I was never saying no to people, and I was always waiting for them to say yes to me in terms of coaching. Right? So, anxious attachment. Thought it went away. It just transferred over to my business.
We all have to go through it.
Just the truth, okay? So, so there was that, right? And there was like, oh, I don't understand. I'm also kind of seeing what I do as like a commodity. Like I'm seeing it's like you come in with me, we have an hour session, we break through something and it's a commodity. It's something you
Mm.
can just purchase. But what over the time, and there was no way I could have gotten there earlier. Maybe you watching Ken, that for me, that wasn't my timeline to understand that I am not only a coach, I am also a mentor and a leader. And so as I've really continued to understand this, you can no longer price compare my offers. I can no longer commoditize my offers because it is just like you come in and you're going to be a different human. Like you're going
Mm.
to be a different human and I can price that at any price point that I choose. And so because it's my craft and it's my creation and you are sovereign in yourself and you get to also say yes or no. Right. And so it's like I'm in my own energy and I allow you to be in your own energy. And together as two sovereign beings, we decide if this is a go.
Mm.
So that's been so much of the evolution. And I remember like I used to hide my prices. I used to hide them, like talk about shame. Like how are you going to be aligned with your prices when you are so terrified of anyone knowing what your prices are, especially like people outside of the coaching industry, like my
Yeah,
regular life people, right? You know what I'm talking about. And
I
it's
do.
like, oh, I can't have anybody. They're going to think they're going to think all kinds of things. They're going to have all these projections. So it was such an evolution for me to see that I was holding shame around pricing too much, pricing too little. Some people will think it's low, some people will think it's high, and it was really this like I choose to be seen, and it has taken time. And the only way to really anchor safety within yourself is to make the move. So many people are waiting to feel safe to make the move. And that's actually really not how it works. It's you make the move, and as you're making it, you're anchoring safety along the way, right? So just this past weekend, I had like application after application after application for my certification in portal love. And that is something I have so desired, that kind of momentum. So as it's coming in, there's a part of me that wants to panic and freak out. And I am just like breathing and reminding my body that it's so safe for this to be happening. So I can't wait for the safety first and then I take the action. I do the thing and I anchor the safety at the same time.
Let's speak to that part of you that wants to freak out a little bit, because I imagine there are people here who haven't experienced it yet. So they're like, what do you mean? Why would you freak out? You're getting what you want. And so by like putting language to it and explaining why that might be happening, they can be better equipped for when it does.
Yeah, I understand you. First of all, if that's the thought that you have, because I used to also look at other coaches of mine or people out there and go like, wow, like I want that, but I didn't realize I wasn't ready for that level of like responsibility,
Yeah.
leadership, right? Like to be willing to say no to someone who isn't a fit, to be navigating this many different conversations at the same time, to have that many people onboarded and, like little things might slip through the crack and it's like not making that a big deal, but that's just like part of what happens as you're growing and then you're adding in more systems and, it's like we think consciously, we think we want things, but really there are so many unconscious parts of us that are absolutely terrified and also love the cat and mouse game of like looking, hiding, looking, like hide and seek, like I want it, but it's not here. And then I want it more because it's not here. And I'm in this constant chase. And so just imagine like these people who you see doing these things that you want, like imagine the amount of emails that come through and the inquiries and, question. And so you have to have like the team in place to support that as well so that you are not in a state of overwhelm, right? So as I'm seeing all these applications pour through, there's a part of me that wants to like, of course, be so grateful and celebratory. There's another part that's like, oh my God, I have all these applications to read and do I have the time to read them all? And then I have to like respond to all these people. And so just know that there's always duality, right? There's always duality. And so I'm like, okay, I see this part of me that wants to panic, but I'm not going to turn this abundance into lack.
Mm. Yeah.
Right. And so I'm seeing that for what it is now. And I'm taking deep breaths and like, okay, let me take a deep breath before I respond to this. Let me make sure I'm in spaciousness. Like I don't have to get to everything the moment it comes in.
I love that. I love that you said that. Yeah. I think that that's a really potent reminder for people who are especially wanting the people to say yes so bad right out the gate, that being that reactive sort of perpetuates the grasping, chasing energy versus the like rooted tree. I'm like totally in expectation of the fruits sprouting, because that is what happens when the seasons shift, and just knowing.
Exactly. 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 And one of my clients the other day said something so beautiful about the tree, that like sometimes the tree is in such abundance of fruit, right? And you can almost imagine like some of these fruits start falling because there's such an abundance, and that's okay. Like that's also part of it too, right? It's like overflow. Wow, I don't actually need to hold on to all of it. So,
Yeah.
some people who inquired, for example, I don't need to like go and follow up with each and every person if they haven't like really reinitiated, right? I can let that fruit fall and do what it needs to do and just pick the right fruits that are available for me, right? Like they're right
Yeah.
there and they're ready. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. I feel like I'm a perfect example. We met and I was like, I want in your world. Like, I know that whatever you're creating is something I'm meant to be a part of. And life has thrown me a massive curveball with this move that I'm in the process of. And so I know over here on like the client end what my reasoning is for not having joined yet. And there's a world in which you could, on the coach's side, be like, oh, she's not going to sign. When is she going to sign? And like, if you were in a space of really needing my membership fee or my mastermind payment or whatever, then I would feel that as a client, as a
Mm-hmm.
potential client, and
Mm-hmm.
it would be repelling. But I know
Mm-hmm.
that like once I'm rooted with my housing situation, or even it's interesting because being in your presence, just speaking very candidly for the listeners, being in your presence, I'm like, oh, right. When I am in the frequency of Diana, I feel more grounded. If groundedness is the desired emotion, then
Mm-hmm.
don't wait to have the house to feel grounded.
Mm-hmm.
Be grounded even without the house. So anyway, you'll
Mm-hmm.
probably be seeing my
Mm-hmm.
soul membership coming back through after this call. I just want to pull back the curtain for people who are listening. Because there's no
Absolutely
part of
that.
Diana that chased me, just to round that story up.
Exactly. Exactly. There's something I'd love to say to what you just said. And because I think that it's just like a manifestation code.
Mm.
Whatever you say, when this, then that, when you flip that, your life is going to change, right? So when I move, then
Chills!
right. Yeah. Like when I move, then I'll join, right? So I, your process is beautiful. I'm here for it whenever, right? Like, so I allow you to have your process. I love you. But when you can start to flip those things, like I had my clients do this last week, and it was like, oh, when I'm in a partnership, I'll travel more. I'm like, amazing. You travel more now. You'll meet the partner who loves to travel. When I see myself as an expert, I'll have more clients. I'm like, amazing. Oh no, it was when I have more clients, I'll see myself as an expert. I'm like, you see yourself as an expert. That's how the clients will feel you and come into your world. So whatever it is, you flip it around. And I have so many personal examples of this where I'm like, when this and that, and it's like, oh, I just caught myself say that. There's no way I can unsee it. I have to flip it around, and it just collapses the time. It makes me the match for
Yeah.
the thing.
It's like the Pygmalion effect. You treat people how to, you
Exactly.
train people how to treat you. So start being the way that you want them to see you as, and they will see you as that. And then them seeing you as that will reinforce that you feel that way anyway. So good.
Exactly. Yeah.
Diana, I want to go back to something that you said earlier, and that was as you're growing, there will become moments when you need to bring on team members to help yourself
Mm-hmm.
scale and they'll have the right systems.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to hear, what were some of your essential hires? What were some
Mm-hmm.
that you allowed to fall away? And
Mm-hmm.
how does all of that sort of play into the art of receiving and melting that you're,
Mm-hmm.
so passionate about?
Mm-hmm. Beautiful question. Okay, essential hire. So in 2018, I gave birth to, well, last second last day of 2017. So 2018, I gave birth to
Mhm.
my first child, and it was like, if I'm gonna have a business, I have to hire someone. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts, right? It's like this has to happen, and I don't feel financially ready, so but it has to happen because I believe in where I'm going, and so I set myself up for success. And there's no question of me not rising. Like that is just something I've decided about myself. There's no question of me ever not rising. So even if that means a dip, all good, because I know where I'm going big picture. So that looked like hiring a VA, I think at the time for 2 hours a week or something like that, like so small. And I would suggest for anyone who's new to their business, like have a list as you're moving through your stuff, your tasks, have a list of like what tasks my team will do and write it in the present tense and just start jotting down the things that you will one day hire out for. Cause I was like, oh, I really do have things for this person to do. Like it's not just an ego hire, right? Like just to say I'm in business. So that was essential. So I worked at first with individual assistants, and the reason that didn't work out is because those people always very quickly wanted to move on to something else. So I eventually ended up, and people have different things to say about this. This is working really well for me. I eventually ended up working with a VA agency, and that has worked out beautifully because that woman's company is based on having this agency. She isn't herself the VA. So even if someone falls off, she's going to be replacing that person. And so they have copywriters and tech people and designers and all the things. And so I've just, I started with like 10 hours, and then it was like 15 hours, and it was 20 hours, and it just kept growing.
Do you want to recommend them?
Yeah, sure. I would love to. Do you want me to just say their names?
Yeah, you can say it, and I'll include it in the show notes. And if you have an affiliate link, we'll use that one in the show notes.
Yeah, I do have something. If they can say they were referred by me. So it's Champagne Collective is now their new name. Yeah. So they're an agency and like really just efficiency. Like that's the name of their game. It's not an individual person. And it's owned by two women, which of course is amazing. So there's that. And then there came a point where I was like, okay, I need someone between me and the VAs. I am in Asana far too much writing out the tasks for these VAs because their job is not to write out their own tasks. They don't know what's coming. I have to say, hey, we're about to move into a launch. We need a sales page. We need the emails. We need the da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I was like, this is not working for me. Like I think this is true for all design types, but as a generator in my human design, like really the way I'm spending my time is either depleting me or amplifying, right?
Generator.
So this is like, oh my God, I feel I can't get into the details of the things. So I need like a project manager, I think, or like someone between me and them. And I said it for about, I want to say a year and a half, like just saying it. I was saying it out loud until you asked a question about who fell away. So I'll come to that after. One of the women who was supporting one of my spaces as a support coach was like, you need to talk to my best friend. And I swear she mentioned that and my whole body lit up and I was like, inner knowing. And I hired her far before I thought I was ready to. Like far, because I'm paying mentorship, I'm paying my VAs, and so she ended up coming on board and we've just been growing together ever since. And she assigns me tasks. She assigns the VAs. I say we have a launch coming up and she just goes and does her magic. And all of a sudden the things are rolling in, like decide on which images you want to use and like provide us with the copy. And like she's assigning me the tasks. And I really then get to stay in my zone of genius, which is content creation, coaching, program creation. That's it. That's what I want to be doing. Those are the only things I want to be doing inside of my business. And that's what I get to do at this stage. I also obviously have a bookkeeper and like accountant and all that financial side. And a lawyer too that I work with on like not on a regular retainer, but like trademark stuff. So there's that. And then the positions that fell away. And what I will say is I only ever move with what feels true in the moment in front of me. And I never try to map out too many steps ahead. And it always just works out. So I had these two support coaches supporting my mastermind, which was essential at the time. I was like in the midst of like baby making and baby raising and all of that, right? So it was very supportive. But then there came a point where I was like, my mastermind, it's so intimate, like this high space that they were supporting. I don't need this actually. This is not really like supportive for what I need anymore. And so I really did let that fall away. And what's beautiful is they're coming back in two different roles now. One is supporting, like reviewing call submissions for my certification. And the other one is helping me design the certification on a course designer level because she is like studied in instructional design. And so with that, I never worry about, and even my project manager now, she's a certified coach. So she does an integration call once a month with my groups. And I never worry about like, well, what happens if this doesn't work out long term? It's always just it shifts and evolves as it needs to. And it's like what I feel to be the right move in the now.
Mm. Yeah, that
I
feels
don't
so
overthink things.
juicy.
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, this idea of having a project manager, it's like I've heard of OBMs,
Mhm.
and I imagine this to be somewhat similar, but the way that you made it, that you put it into such specific outcomes that they're providing for you, I'm like, oh, it sounds so liberating.
It's so liberating. I'm just like voice noting. So this is what I need. And then she just goes into Asana and makes it all happen, and then the VAs execute it. So she's not executing. She's the middle woman.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Hmm.
And so to bring it back to the third part of the question, which was how does this support staff tie into your ability
Hmm.
to be in
Hmm.
melting receiver mode? I mean, just
Hmm.
by hearing you describe it, I feel melty. I feel abundant. I feel receptive. But if there's anything
Hmm.
else you want to add to that.
Well, there's something about knowing that there are people working on your business when you're not even doing it, right? Like we're going to Toronto this weekend, and it's just like I know that in the background, like so much stuff is getting done, and I'm not involved in any of it, right? So that, like, obviously, right, puts me in a state of receivership just to allow the support and like that journey of I hand this over, and my project manager will be like, so you want me to just make a decision on this on my own? I'm like, absolutely. Like if I didn't trust you, you wouldn't be working on my team. Like I really do trust you. And I always do hold the trust very high and let people meet me there. And then if we need to adjust something, we will. But my standard is like, if we're in some kind of relationship together, it's because I trust you. That's my standard in life. So there's so much practice of allowing yourself to receive from your team or like from the cleaning people who come by once a week or, anything like that. Just like allowing that level of, I didn't have to do that and it got done.
Mm.
And then of course, just the very practical creating space in your calendar and spaciousness in your day for you to walk more slowly or like take a walk at all or like exercise or just take care of yourself or some way or even pour yourself into the parts that you do love. Like I said, like even in relationships, you get to do so much less, but what that's going to do is wake up the parts that you want to be doing so much more of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and I also just want to highlight where you said, if we are in relationship, it's because I trust you, and that's a standard. I think that that's something a lot of people need to sort of come around to, because
Mm-hmm.
I see a pattern of, well, I can't give it over to so and so because they're not going to do it right. Well, how do you get to a point where you just trust that whatever way they do it is good enough and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
probably maybe even better than the way you do it, or else
Yeah.
you're going to continue
Yeah.
doing it forever and you have no right to complain.
Exactly. And they can never know, like, yeah, of course, there's a runway of that person getting to know your style. And so
Mhm.
there's like, when my project manager first came on, it was like I was on duty. Like we were having all these
Totally.
meetings and it was heavy for the first 3 months, but I understood very clearly. And like my mentor was helping us set up our relationship. So I understood very clearly that this was just like, this was what needed to get done for her to be able to fly on her own. And really, like when I allow her the space to figure it out, first of all, she's far more meticulous than I am. So I'm like, anything you think is good is higher standard than I would have said. So like, also choosing the right people in your life. So you don't sabotage yourself and say, I can't trust people,
Mm.
right? It's like, are you really choosing people she's invested like in the success. She's in the movement. She loves the movement. She's not just there for a paycheck at all. So obviously I give her the space to rise up. And then when something needs, you know, addressing, then we'll address it and with so much love.
Yeah. Yeah. I just always think back to the story that you told in Mexico about wanting to outsource a task in your family that you had been doing for a long time. And when you communicated to Jack that you just didn't want to do it anymore, his response was, okay, then don't. Like, let me
Hmm.
do it.
Hmm.
Melt.
Exactly. Like,
Melt then.
let it go. Let it go. I saw something the other day. This woman that I follow, she said, it's not that you're, what did she say? You're exhausted, not because he won't carry the bags, but because you won't drop them.
Oof.
That's it. Like full chills, right? Like that's like nothing left
Totally.
to say. Mic drop, right?
Yep.
Like drop it. Let them show
Yeah.
you. Let them rise up.
Yeah. And I remember coming home from Mexico after hearing that story and lovingly passing it along to some girlfriends of mine who were sharing some frustrations in their partnership. And I'm like, well, if you want him to do it differently, you have to be willing to not think he needs to do it differently.
Mhm. Mhm.
You can't influence people that you're judging. This is another one that stands
Mhm.
out to me.
Mhm.
Yeah, beautiful. Ugh, I love this conversation so much. I have one last sort of tactical question for you.
Mhm.
Um, so much of coaching is the human to human connection, and
Mhm.
social media is part of how you get your word out there. It's part of how people get to know, like, and trust you. And you have two kids, you have a partner,
Mhm.
you're in the zone of genius area. So I'd love to know, kind of like pull back the curtain for people who are still
Mhm.
in the I have to do it all. How much of what you put out there in terms of your marketing is you
Mhm.
getting to just create and share, and how much has your team taken on for you and they can manage that part?
I haven't actually handed over a lot of social media to my team beyond like, hey, can you create graphics for this new program or this new
Hmm.
offering, or can you create a series of IG story slides for this upcoming masterclass or the certification program or something like that. So they have done the design part, but I personally love the content creation, have come to love it. I didn't always love
Mm.
it because it felt like pressure. But now that it's like, oh, this is actually just my creation and no one can tell me it's good or not good. And when I just because it's my creation and so it's subjective. And when I can really just allow the message to come through how it wants to come through without overthinking it, one of my past mentors used to refer to it as farm to table.
I
Right?
love
Like
that.
farm to table, right? It's just like there was
Yes.
no processing in between. It was just direct flow.
Prolific
So
over perfection. I love that.
so good, right? So when you allow yourself to take the pressure off and go, I don't need, it's not this one post that has to do all the magic. It's like, I am really committed. I'm not marketing my business. I am leading a movement. And so because of that, like everything is a story and everything is a valuable share that's in service to the movement. And so I'm not like focused on like, I have to write the right post to sell 5 spots into my program. I am I'm just showing you the power of this movement and like what it creates in my life and in my clients' lives.
Mm.
And I just trust that it will move the right people. When I say the right people, the people who are ready for that in this moment in time, right? Because they
Yeah.
might not be ready today. They'll be ready at some point. And so it's like, yeah, I don't do a ton of social media when my kids are around because they actually have no idea yet what any of that is. And I would like to keep that for as long as possible. My son is
Mm.
7, my daughter is 3. And so I might snap some pictures here and there, but then I put it away and I do that when they're not around so they don't ask like, what is this thing that you're on? And I just
Yeah.
prefer to keep them separate from that for a while. Um, but it's like, it's fun. I see my people not as people I am selling to. I see them as my community. And so they actually make me want to share more. And
Mm.
they feel involved. They know, like they knew when we got a cat and then I had allergies to the cat. And then everybody's asking me, how are the allergies going with the cat? And it's like, we're in together. We're doing life together. And then of course it requires like knowing how to put it aside when need be.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that I really want to highlight is you said the parts that aren't fun or connection based or farm to table, like, the graphics that detail the elements of an upcoming thing or the welcome image to someone joining the portal of love. Like, you outsource that so that
Hmm.
you're not getting
Hmm.
lost in the sauce, in the pixels inside Canva or Photoshop or whatever. You get to stay in your
Ooh,
heart
yeah.
and
Yeah,
express.
absolutely. Me and Canva is a horrible idea. Yeah.
Yeah, that's liberating. And I think that a lot of people listening needed to hear that. It's like, if you want to have a positive relationship with something, create standards that allow you to stay in the most positive version of yourself in relationship to that thing. And in this case, social media.
Exactly. And if I can make one small analogy, It's like
Yeah.
when my clients, I don't only work with women calling in love. I also work with women who are already in relationships. But for those who are calling in love and are like, I don't want to go online. I'm like, well, first of all, that's the most unoriginal thing because I don't really know anyone who really wants to go online dating apps. But if you're going to do it, choose the energy with which you do it, because it's like if I was going on Instagram to talk about the things I have going on and the movement and the business and the offerings, and I'm resenting it at the same time, the energy with which I say something doesn't land for you. Like you don't feel moved by it. And so then I'm taking all this action, but it's not actually producing any fruit. And it's the same thing. It's like when you go online dating and like you're resenting it the whole way through, it's not likely to produce the kind of fruit you want it to produce because of the energy you're bringing. And so we get to choose if we're going to use these free, mostly free, incredible tools that are available to us in this day and age. Can we actually find some gratitude in them? And like
beautiful.
give some gratitude for these incredible platforms that open up the world to us or your city. Like all the, eligible people in your city are like showing up on this one thing on your phone. Like what a crazy idea.
Yeah, wow. Even I know in that context you were speaking about dating apps, but my brain was hearing it through the lens of can we have gratitude for like Instagram? And it kind of shifted something because I'm sort of anti social media in some ways. I really value my presence, and I notice I don't only notice, I know that the apps are
Yep.
designed to steal our
Yep.
attention and our presence.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But when you said, can you have gratitude for it? I'm like, my whole energy around it shifted. And I was like, wow, yeah, it allows me to stay connected to people that I've known for 20 years, 30 years. It allows me to see a funny video that totally shifts my mood in a good way. Also, there's content that doesn't negatively, but like, what can I appreciate? And if we can apply that lens to everything that we may be judging, resisting, resenting, etc., how the thing immediately shifts in our energy.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
I appreciate you so much.
Right back
All
at
right.
you.
Tell us where people can get more of you, what you have going on, where they can plug into your world, because I'll be continuing to sing your praises for, years to come.
I appreciate you so much. Okay. Well, Instagram is always a great place to I feel that's the best space to really build connection because that's where I can share stories of I don't know, my daughter, instead of blow drying her hands under the drying machine, she's blow drying her hair and just her wild energy, right? That's where I can share that part of my life and just how crazy and amazing it is. So that's a great place at Diana Escander _. I'm sure you can leave that for them. And then some things I have going on. So the self method is a method I have been working with for almost a decade now. And I really started to own it 2020 and then more in the last year and a half. And so we are running our first cohort for the School of Love certification on the self method. And so however you support people in this world, it's we're in relationship to everything. We're in relationship to our bodies, to food, to money, to clients, to time, to discipline, to anything. And so this is a process that is so powerful and simple that you can really use to actually create results with your clients, which is the thing that does the most selling for us. And it helps to find your power and your path forward no matter what situation you're facing. So the first cohort kicks off in May. So we are welcoming some more students in that. I think we're more than half full at this point.
Get it, girl.
That's very exciting. Yeah. So you can always just get in touch about that. Otherwise, I have membership and Portal of Love, which is mentorship and a space for us to walk together and journey through life together. And really the tagline is the lover who receives, the mother who puts herself first, and the woman who makes bank, living her best life. And so it's really you in your overflow, in your high standards, your high trust, your receivership, your self-centered vibes, and you can just get in touch and we can have a conversation.
I love it. So we'll be sure to have all of those linked up in the show notes. Diana, I appreciate you so much. I can't wait to reconnect in person so soon. Thank you to the listeners. Please go follow Diana on Instagram, plug into her world, soak up her brilliance, and just feel the stress fall off your bodies. That's how I feel when I talk to you.
I love you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 72 of the Profitable Coach podcast. If you want access to any of the resources that we talked about, if you want to go get plugged into Diana's world and soak up more of her epic magic, then head over to theprofitablecoach.com/072. There we'll have all the resources linked up. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you on next week's episode.